we call in this one Bulletproof Training. And this is basically about building a system that allows you to never miss a workout again. That's kind of the goal. So, what you can expect from today, we're going to talk about why most people fall off the training regime, how to build a system that flexes with your week, what makes your workouts actually effective, and then how to train through busy, messy real life seasons. Because most people, when they create a training program, it's all about things being perfect, right? It's those perfect days, those what things will look like in this idealistic, amazing world. But the fact of the matter is that life rarely gifts us those days, especially if you are probably like out of your teens or your 20s. The chances are that you get very few of those days. So you need to build a routine that survives your worst days, and that is what we're going to cover today. So we're not going to be talking about specifics, do this exercise, like have this workout structure. This is purely about like actually taking action and being consistent. Now, before we get into this, my note taker is deciding to join in and out of this constantly, which is bloody annoying. Right, this can go away. 1 second, guys. Uh, there we go. Cool. So, why do most people fall off? So they fall off for probably one of these four reasons. The first one is what I just touched on, that their plan only works in ideal conditions. They're stuck in routines from a past version of life. I've talked about this a lot. So basically, not really being aware of what life is like today and reverting to where you were when you were 40 years old, when you were 30 years old, when you were 20 years old, and the things you were doing then, and then trying to basically do that now. That's only not going to work in terms of it's just not going to work, right? It's a different time of life. You might have different responsibilities, different time demands, a different body, whatever it is. If you try and bring that to now, like the chances are it's gonna fail. So you have to build something for the present versus like a past version of yourself. They treat a missed session like failure. This is a common one, right? Miss one session. We see it with our nutrition as well. Eat one bad meal, and then that has a knock-on effect to the way that it's all mindset, right? You miss then the next session. Oh, I failed. Or we'll start again on Monday. We'll start again next week. So treating it basically as a failure versus actually figuring out, okay, cool. How do I adapt? How do we divert? How do we realign? And then finally, they overestimate motivation and they underestimate friction. Now, what I mean by that is relying on motivation to actually do the thing and actually underestimating how removing the friction and lowering that barrier to entry can actually mean that motivation doesn't even matter. Because the truth about motivation is that motivation is finite and it will run out. It will ebb and flow throughout your life. There'll probably be a peak that causes you to maybe join something like Vibrant People or start again. That might be due to pain, might be due to desire, maybe a bit of both. And then after 2 weeks, I would say is the average, the motivation is going to go. That's going to be that point where you go, oh, I'm going to miss that workout. And then suddenly you've missed 2 days and then 3 days and then a week and then a month. And then you just ride that wave. And then the next time you start again. And that can obviously be training. It can be diet as well, or both. What we want to do is get to a point where we don't actually rely on motivation and we realize that it is very fickle. And we actually create systems that allow us to minimize friction and to take action irregardless of like motivation or emotions. If your plan only works when life is perfect, it will not work for long because we don't get perfect days. And this notion of creating this perfect plan not only holds us back once we've started, but it actually stops getting people started in the first place. I take a lot of calls in an average month, people wanting to join the program, and you'd be shocked at how many people say, "Oh, yeah, now's not quite the right time." And that could be anything from being on vacation, it could be a busy work period, it could be X, Y, Z, one, two, three. There's a million different reasons why it's not perfect. And I guarantee, obviously, there's always cases where that is a genuinely true statement, but 9 times out of 10, it's just putting obstacles in your way and expecting that there's going to be a perfect scenario that comes up where suddenly, oh, I'm not going to have to work. I'm not going to have the kids to look after. I'm not going to have any stresses in my life. I'm going to have all the time in the world. I'm going to have loads of motivation. We all know those situations are never going to come up. So you can either decide to do something and embrace the imperfection and embrace the chaos and figure it out for now, or you can just wait for the rest of your life to actually do something about it, to be completely blunt. So, concept we're talking about a lot at the moment is the floor being greater than the ceiling. So the ceiling is basically the trap that most people fall into when they try to get in shape or start a new program or whatever, which is basically chasing intensity. How do I just make that high as possible? Now, what I truly believe is that we want to raise our floor. It's completely fine to raise your ceiling, and like we will be working on the ceiling too during our time together, but we need to make sure that we are prioritizing the floor, because the floor is going to be the thing that allows you to get in a consistent rhythm. It's going to be the thing that works on your worst weeks and works around that chaos, and it's the thing that actually allows you to stay in this game for the rest of your life. When you chase the ceiling all the time, you're going to burn out. It's going to be easy to quit. It's going to be always reliant on those good weeks, whereas your floor is something that can survive the worst week. And we're going to get into it a bit on this presentation later on, but even people who are been in shape for decades and decades and decades and it looks effortless to them, they are still ebbing and flowing, just like the people that go on plan and off plan. The difference is that the people that are on plan or off plan, they have a very low floor and a much higher ceiling. The gap between the two is very high. The people that are effortlessly in shape for decades and decades and decades, their floor to ceiling ebb and flow is much shallower, but their floor is much, much higher in relation to their ceiling. So when they're, even if they did the floor forever consistently, they would still be in pretty good shape because they're still, eating pretty good meals. They're still getting their workouts in consistently. They're still prioritizing sleep. Those core anchors and core habits are still in place. And then they can rise to those periods of intensity when they have the extra time or the extra energy or the extra motivation. But you can see just from that visualization that the most important difference between those two avatars that I've mentioned is the fact that the floor is higher. It's nothing to do with the ceiling. You get guys that are never barely trained in their life, don't eat well, and they go and do a marathon, right? They get some motivation, they train for the marathon, they do the marathon, and then after the marathon, they return back to old habits and they go back to their floor. So anyone can really chase the ceiling, but it doesn't mean that it lasts. Whereas the floor is actually about how do we actually make this last long term? And the beautiful thing about the floor is that as you build on that, it becomes easier and easier and easier. So that guy who's in his 60s and he's in incredible shape, and you're thinking, how is that guy doing that? He has just gradually built a higher and higher floor over the years. So it's become so normal, so habitual that it just seems everyday life for him. It's just normal. So you can maintain like an extremely high level of physical and mental fitness, but with very little effort because it has become so habitual. And that is the beauty and the power of the floor. So this is the 3-part bulletproof system. And on the last training earlier in the week, we did this for nutrition too. And there are 3 different main things that I've identified when it comes to building a bulletproof training system. So the first one are your anchors. So your weekly non-negotiables or your daily non-negotiables that hold your rhythm. With the food, it's more of daily non-negotiables. For the training, it's kind of a weekly thing because obviously we're not necessarily training every single day. It might be something we're trying to squeeze into a week. So there might be some anchors that are more daily, some anchors that are more weekly. The second one is adaptability. So your ability to flex with time, location, and energy. I think this one is the most underestimated one in any kind of fitness program. Over the years, my approach to this has evolved and I've become more aware of my own behaviors and what's allowed me to be successful in this realm and what's allowed my clients to be successful. And I truly believe now that adaptability and teaching you guys how to be adaptable and flexible and not only do that practically, but actually have the right mindset to handle that is one of our like most powerful components of how we do things. The last one is effectiveness. So just simply making sure that the sessions that you do have, however, whether they're small, big, often, infrequent, whatever they are, you are getting there very much the most out of that time that you put in. Because there's going to be periods where you're super busy, you've got minimal time, you can't train as often, you can't train as long. So you vitally want to make sure that you get the absolute most out of what you're doing, because you don't want to look back and go, man, what's the point of doing this? Because I'm not even getting the results that I want. So when you have those three things in place, you have your anchors, you are adaptable, and you're being effective and efficient with your training, you really don't need motivation anymore. You just simply execute on those things. These are the keys to really forming that flexible floor. So we're going to go through each of one of these. I've done a little quote for each one as well. I do like a quote. So I got in the flow of that. So the anchor plan, that's your baseline. So this is just an example. It could be different for everyone. Typically, if you are in the early stages of this program, you will be following our anchor plan. And then maybe if you're in sort of your next block, whether it's after the initial 3 months or into your 6 to 12 month period or beyond, that might start looking a little bit different for you as we build something like very, very unique and adapted to the other things that you want to do. So for most people in the first 3 months, we'll be doing 3 to 4 short strength sessions a week. I call them short. They could be anywhere from 15 to 45 minutes, but I think most people would still consider that short. The amount of guys that come on a call and they say, "Oh, I have no time. Like, I can only train for an hour." I'm like, dude, you've got loads of time. All good, all good. So they are short, compared to most people's perception about what it takes. Whole body focus. So the beauty of whole body, we do have a split, obviously, but the fact that we focus on whole body means that if you do need to play catch up at any point or you need to adapt, it gives you much more wiggle room. If you're doing a typical bodybuilding split where you're training 5 or 6 days a week, it's single body parts in isolation. If you fuck up a day, then it's very hard to like figure out how to rejuggle that or have to wait until next week to like redo that body part. If you have a tighter split, which has more repetition, you not only get that volume benefit, I personally feel it's actually better functionally as well. It's better for your strength and mobility. That's a different conversation. But in terms of actually doing the thing and being adaptable, having a tighter split is going to allow you to adapt more, because if you miss one day for whatever reason, it's very easy to catch that up with the rest of the week, especially if you're only doing 3 workouts out of a 7-day week, right? There's so much opportunity to actually keep moving forward, not see it as failure, and actually just make it up somewhere else. Structured around compound movement patterns. Obviously, that ties in with the whole body focus, but you'll know from this program that there's very few, if any, isolation movements. Isolation movements, again, completely different conversation. They have a place. Maybe if you're a bodybuilder and you really want to like focus on a specific area and bringing that up with the rest of the body, maybe it's an injury and you need to strengthen like a particular muscle. Outside of that, for the average person, isolation movements, they're not going to bring a massive benefit to you, and they're just going to add more time onto whatever you're doing. If you think more through movement patterns being horizontal pushing, so like a push-up, horizontal pulling, like a row, vertical pushing, like a dip or a pike press up, vertical pulling, which is like a pull-up, pulling downwards. Then you have your squat, which is your normal squat, lunge, hinge, and you have stuff like hinge could also be like a crunch or a leg raise or something like that. So we're thinking more in terms of like biomechanical functional movement patterns versus bicep curl, like isolation. And when you do that, you're working all the muscle groups in a balanced way. It means you build more of like kind of like athletic, very symmetrical, balanced body versus something that can look a bit more, oh, that guy's got a gym body. That guy looks more like he goes to the gym. Absolutely fine. Zero issues with that. But to me personally, I want to build a body that's functional and capable first and foremost, and having that more aesthetic, athletic look is secondary, but it will come as a result of training in this way. And then finally, designed to be repeatable, not perfect. What I mean by that is that there's rarely going to be perfect days. And the most important thing is that you can actually do it again and again and again. You can make the most perfect plan on paper, but if you only take action on it 5 times out of 10, then it's not the best plan. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to say it in a minute, but we'll repeat it anyway. The 10 out of 10 plan that's done 50% of the time is not going to beat the 7 out of 10 plan that's done every single week, like without fail, right? So finding that balance between what is perfect, what do you actually want, and what is actually repeatable, and making a compromise between the two rather than making the barrier too low to entry. So it's not actually getting you where you want to go and pushing you, and then the perfection where you can't actually take action on it. If you hit these anchors, regardless of how imperfect it is, you are going to progress 100%. If you get your nutrition right, if you're getting enough rest and you action this consistently, just this alone without any of the other stuff, you are going to move forward. Maybe you won't achieve the absolute dream goal that you have, but you are definitely going to be better than you were yesterday, than you were last week, than you were last year. A great way to think about this in terms of a busy life is to imagine everything else as a bonus. Now, I'm going to talk specifically about wanting to do more and that thing of, oh man, like I wish, what about stretching? What about foam rolling? What about walking? What about running? What about surfing? Like all these different things that we get excited about, especially as we start feeling fitter and more capable. Just having that mindset of it's a good day if this happens, the anchors, this goes for your nutrition as well, and everything else is a bonus. That's going to serve you so well psychologically because it means that you're going to pull away from that guilt or that emotion or that shame or, man, I should have done more or I wish I could have done this, to more like, I did the thing. Like I did what was necessary to move forward. Tomorrow's a new day. It's an amazing place to be, and it just feels like you can tick off that box. Whilst we don't want our training to just simply be a checklist, right? We want to actually try and progress and grow. There's going to be times where it's just pure survival, and just checking it off and doing the thing is the most important thing. And if we do that, we want to kind of celebrate that versus a lot of the time going, oh man, I only did 15 minutes today. That kind of sucks. Just going, sweet, I did 15 minutes. Like it was a hell of a day. So I hope that resonates. And then my quote for the anchor plan is, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. An amazing quote from the man himself, Aristotle. So this is basically very straightforward and should make sense. But if it doesn't, it's basically just saying we are a result of our actions. Those behaviors that we take every single day, that is what we will become. It's not a single act, but it is something that we repeat over and over again. If you repeat those fundamentals, like the ones I talked about in the Bulletproof Nutrition, and something simple like this, you are going to be better than the person you were yesterday. So the second element of the Bulletproof Training System is time, location, and equipment flex. Training doesn't need to be ideal. It needs to be doable. So if you can flex all three of those things, basically nothing is going to hold you back from taking action. Like try and think of the last time, hopefully it was before you joined this program, but try and think of the last time where you were going to skip training or you did skip training, or the scenario came up where you would have skipped training. If you could have flexed each one of these things, ask yourself, would that have allowed me to still take action? So you can flex the duration. Cool. 30-minute workout scheduled. I'm going to do 10. Haven't got 30, I'll do 10. Absolutely fine. Location. Usually I train at the gym, but I need to do this one at home today. Cool. I need to do this one in the park. Cool. I'm in a hotel. Cool. Flex. Equipment. Oh, I usually rely on the pull-up bar in the gym. Okay, so cool. We won't use equipment today. We'll just do something with body weight. Oh, I've got some resistance bands at home. Oh, I can just hang off the door frame under the staircase, right? Whatever it is. If you can flex in these three main areas, and there might be maybe some other areas of flex as well, but if you can flex and adapt, the more consistent that you're going to be. There's basically going to be no excuses. And I've heard it time and time again from people that join the program, and they say, man, since I joined, there's literally no excuse because there's always something to do. There's always a backup plan. It's not just plan A. Most programs out there are plan A. Go to the gym, 90 minutes, chest. If you don't do it, you failed. This is about going, okay, cool. Like we have a system that we want to try and hit most of the time. But if it's a difference between not doing it and doing it, then figure out how you can actually get it done. Flex with time, flex with location, flex with equipment. If that means that you're doing 2 sets of press ups and squats and leg raises from a hotel room floor in 10 minutes with no equipment, then so be it. That's going to keep the momentum going and it's going to keep you moving forward. And this is an awesome quote from Bruce Lee. Be like water making its way through cracks. Do not be assertive, but adjust to the object. Be formless, shapeless like water. You put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. Water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend. And then the final one is making your workouts actually effective. And there's so many elements to this, but if we want to just distill it down to 3 core takeaways that you can just remember every single workout, however imperfect, whether it's those push-ups on the hotel room floor, remember these 3 things. So the first one is the simple and most important concept of building muscle and strength, and that's progressive overload. So basically getting stronger over time by increasing the stimulus. That could be more reps, more sets, slower reps, so harder reps. It could be increasing the resistance by changing the leverage, the symmetry, adding weights, whatever that is. But basically, that journey from 12 weeks ago, I could do 2 pull-ups. Now at week 12, I can do 12 pull-ups, 3 sets of 12. So progressive overload is that body's ability to adapt to an increased stimulus over time. That will not do it by itself. The amount of people, if you say go into a commercial gym, how many guys in there are just going through the motions? They just go through each machine, do a few reps, and then they just move on to the next thing. They've never improved in terms of what they're actually doing for the last 20 years. They're just going through the motions. Now, obviously, it's great that they're in there. It's great that they're doing something. But if we're talking like pure, how do we make this most effective as possible in isolation? They're selling themselves short, right? Because they're not actually improving over time. So whilst there's going to be periods where you are just, let's get this done, let's go through the motions. On those other periods, you want to be considering, am I actually making progress here? Am I pushing? If your body has no reason to adapt, then it's not going to adapt. It's not going to change. So whilst you can maintain by going through the motions, if you actually want to grow and get better, progressive overload is absolutely key. Which brings us nicely onto close to failure. Now, this is very closely linked to progressive overload, but not quite the same. So with the same guy in the gym going through the motions, he's on the chest machine, and his actual capability is 15 reps, which would be failure. But he just kind of does 8, right? Because everyone just does 3 to 8 reps, 3 sets of 8 reps or 3 sets of 10 reps, because that's what we've been told. If you are not training close to failure, again, you're not going to get those results that you want. So whatever you're doing, whether it's press ups on the hotel room floor, whether it's the pull ups from your garage gym, like whatever it is, make sure you are training close to that failure point. Now, I won't go too much into detail because we talk a lot about this in the program, but for us, that's reps in reserve, 1 to 2 reps away from failure. So if that guy could do 15, he's aiming for 13 or 14 reps. So the reason we do that is that we don't want to go all the way to failure because it builds up a lot more fatigue. Once in a while, absolutely fine. But generally for our training, we don't want to get the full failure because of the fatigue, but we want to get close because that's where the magic happens. And the tie between failure and progressive overload is that even if you're not tracking your reps, if you are going close to failure and you're that 1 to 2 reps in reserve, you're actually going to naturally be doing progressive overload, right? Because if you're constantly knocking on the ceiling of your ability level, which is failure, that's your ceiling, then you're going to be getting stronger because next week your body's going to adapt and then you'll be able to do a little bit more. So even if you're not tracking the numbers, if you're getting that principle right, it's naturally going to do the whole progressive overload thing. And then finally, focusing on push, pull, hinge, squat, core, not body parts. If you are short on time and you want to make sure that that workout is as effective as possible, messing around with 3 different exercises for your biceps is literally going to be a massive waste of your time unless your pure goal is to get bigger biceps above all else. If you want to make it as effective as possible, focus on those movement patterns that we talked about before versus a muscle in isolation. If you apply progressive overload, training close to failure, and you're working those movement patterns, your workouts are set out to be super, super effective. And then there's going to be one more that I'm going to add on to that I just thought of now, which is protecting your workout as well. What I mean by that is, if you are, say, training in a gym, it's like someone comes up to you, like you're trying to stick to your rest period, and someone starts chatting to you, and they're just doing the usual, like chatting your ear off about nonsense. And then suddenly your rest period's been 5 minutes, and that was really precious to be able to actually fit your 30 minutes in. Then you've just been pulled up, your effectiveness quota for the workout has just been decreased significantly, right? So if you have the time to do that and you want to do that, cool. But if you want your workout to be effective, you've also got to protect that workout as well. Protect those rest periods, protect those sets, remove distractions, like stick to those rest periods. Because if you are, say, aiming for a 30-minute workout, you're doing your 5 exercises, your 3 sets, and you're doing your minute rest in between. If that turns to 2 minutes, your workout's not going to take 30 minutes anymore. It's going to take longer. And that might mean that you can't actually complete it in the first place. So just honoring that and protecting that workout. And a short, hard focus session beats a long, distracted one, which is basically that in a summary. And then my quote for this one: it is not enough to be busy, so are the ants. The question is, what are we busy about? So when we are doing those long workouts, it's kind of like, ask yourself, like, why am I doing that? Like, do I need to be doing it for that long to actually get the results that you want? And from my experience and working with hundreds of clients with this system, the answer is often no. If you want to do a longer workout and it's fun, that's a different story, right? And I definitely love to do that once in a while. But in terms of actually, return on investment, you don't need to be doing it long and doing it busy in order to get the results that you want. So just a few specific strategies now for busy weeks. So when work or family does ramp up, I want you to book your sessions early in the week. So earlier, like the Monday, the Tuesday, the Wednesday, like the earlier you can get them in, the more chance and the more wiggle room you've got to catch them up later on in the week if you do skip them. And then also earlier in the day, we talk about this a lot. This isn't going to work for everyone, but if you get your workout done first thing in the morning, life can just go on, right? You can have some work disaster, you need to pick your kids up from school, like anything can happen, and you've done the thing already. So whilst I say this isn't going to work for everyone and it might not be your opportunity, your greatest opportunity, if you can get it earlier in the week and earlier in the day, it's going to give you more flexibility and it's going to give you more chance of actually getting it done. Using your calendar and not your mood. So rather than we've done a training on this before about renegotiating with yourself. Don't renegotiate based on your current mood or your current emotions. Get it in the calendar. I train at 7 a.m. and I do my push session from home for 20 minutes. Just go and do it. Like, don't think about how you feel. Don't think about like what's coming up for work. You have committed that to your calendar. If you had a work meeting, if I see Rick is in here, if you've got an appointment with a client, Tim, if you've got a lesson that you're teaching, you're not just going to skip out on that lesson because you're not in the mood, right? You're going to do the thing because you've given it priority and you psychologically know that's important to you because it's in your calendar. So do the same for your workouts. Treat them with the same respect. This is about treating yourself with respect, right? So go and honor it and do the thing that you're dedicated to. Maybe if you are a bit tired or you didn't get good sleep or whatever, you might not perform at your best, but you're still going to do the thing and you're still going to move forward, and tomorrow's a new day, right? Combine workouts with existing habits. So it could be, after a meeting, you do X. When the kids are napping, if the kids are of that age, that's when you do your workout. Maybe it's after brushing your teeth, before you have a shower, after you brew your coffee. If anyone's read the book Atomic Habits, he talks about like habit stacking. So basically attaching new habits onto old habits to make it much easier. If you're already in the rhythm of this and you've been doing this for a while, probably not so much a necessary thing. But if you are new and you're struggling to build the momentum, the habit stacking principle can be like really, really effective to build that initial consistency. Breaking into 2 times 15 minutes if needed. A lot of guys ask me, oh, is it cool if I break it up because today's so busy and I don't have like a full slot? Yeah, absolutely fine. It's not ideal because you're almost having to like get into the flow twice. and possibly shower twice and prepare twice or whatever. But if you need to do that temporarily, absolutely fine. Doing it is more important than how it actually looks, how perfect it is. And I think making 2 sessions your absolute floor is quite important. Uh, I think everyone can get 2 times 15 minutes in a whole week, like whoever you are, I would say. I feel pretty strongly about that. I would even argue that 3 times 15 could be a floor as well. But yeah, we don't want to get into that habit of, oh, we did 3 last week, then it turned to 2, then it turned to 1, suddenly it's a 0, and then it's like starting again. So just doing whatever it takes to keep that momentum. We've gone over all those strategies already, right? Your anchors, your flex, how to make it effective. Do what it takes to keep the habit alive, because you guys know from experience, when the habit breaks and you return to old habits, it's like starting a car on a hill again, right? You've got to put so much work in. Whereas if you've already got a bit of momentum, even if it wasn't perfect, it's much easier to just kind of like roll back into it. It's not on and off, it's just ebb and flow, it's rhythm. So remember that something always beats nothing. So travel and chaos protocol, I think pretty much everything here can be applied to travel as well. Sorry. But if you are traveling and it's nuts, just keep it small. 5 to 10 minutes of movement daily, push-ups, squats, some kind of holds like planks, some stretches, just like whatever you can do with what you've got available. Walking as much as possible. I hear from you guys all the time when you go away on vacation and travel and you're in this sort of movement mindset, you're suddenly racking up like 15, 20, 25, 30K steps. So I love that that's getting across, and you're using that as a tool, because if you are walking, you're going to be using so much energy, and you're going to also have a lot more wiggle room in terms of what you're eating as well, because of that extra movement, but still trying to maintain some semblance of your strength workouts, if not how they're meant to be, some kind of semblance with like a 5-10 minute protocol, and using those flex things that we discussed. If it is a short trip, trying to get one full session in early. This is kind of sounds like why it's kind of simple, but if you can get that one in early and lock it in whilst the habit and your normal rhythm is still as strong as possible, it's going to be much easier to then maintain it. If you're like, oh cool, like just arrived, 2 days, 3 days, it's going to be harder to kind of like use that flow that you had, that you were utilizing from like your normal routine and your normal habits. So the earlier you can get that in, the easier it's going to be then to carry over those habits into the new setting that you are in. So the aim when you are traveling is to maintain momentum. It's not to maximize gains. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be ceiling hitting. It's just about the floor. Like maintain that floor. Catching up versus moving on. So a lot of the time when people miss a session, especially if they're following a program where it is, right, body part a day, 90 minutes in the gym, like very rigid. If you fail, you fail. Missing a session is not a failure as long as you adapt, right? So when I miss a session, I don't see it as a negative. I'm just seeing, cool, like where's the opportunity to catch that up? Is it later in the day? Is it the next day? Like looking for those opportunities rather than beating yourself up, because that's not going to do anything, right? So I would say, firstly, don't stack sessions back to back to catch up. You can do this if you want, but it's kind of the same with the if you put it in a diet perspective, right? Where people, they go for a meal out and then it's suddenly like, oh, I'm just going to fast all day tomorrow to make up for it. And then as a result, they binge again on the evening because they've been in such a deficit and they're super hungry. You could argue the same for the workouts, right? As well. I'm going to do 3 workouts in one day because I missed 3 days. It's probably going to backfire, and it's just probably going to tire you out too much and just burn you out. So just trying to get back on track at the next opportunity. Oh, cool. I missed Monday's workout. Tuesday's usually a rest day, so I'll just do it on Tuesday instead. Really simple, right? So simple. Don't punish yourself. We talked about that already. Just move on and protect the next one. So if you have seen a situation come up, like review what actually caused the miss. Was it a logistical thing? Was it energy? Was it just overreaching? Once you figure those things out, and we talked about this in the nutrition one, like really being aware of what are the reasons when things don't go the way that I intended them to do. If you can actually, rather than just kind of letting them continue to hold you back again and again, and actually going, okay, cool. What are those reasons? These are the things that usually hold me back in my life. Then you can re-strategize, and then you can get back on track. Really straightforward. So remember that your plan should adapt, it should not unravel. And then seasons. Whoa, I know this is a big one, guys. This needed to be a big one. So I appreciate you bearing with me on this one. So seasonal thinking. Not every season is for progress. So this is basically what I was talking about at the start, right? That the super fit guy, he is still ebbing and flowing. Just like the guy that goes on plan, off plan, the real fit guy is ebbing and flowing too. He's just got a much higher floor. So remember that you don't have to be hitting that ceiling every single season. Like summer could just be, I want to be outside, I want to maintain, I want to be doing things and moving. Autumn, you could be increasing like your structure and your routine. Winter could just be reinforcing like the habits, and spring could be pushing performance. These are just examples, right? And they don't even need to be as structured as this. They can just come naturally. This could form in the way of, oh, this is a really busy work project. So this is just going to be a period of maintenance. Or it's the summer holidays, the kids are at home, my wife needs me more, X, Y, like whatever reason, there's going to be ebbs and flows of effort where you have more intensity and lower intensity. And the key with all of that is actually staying in the rhythm, even when that intensity changes. So again, just raise that floor, let the ceiling come and go, which is fine. Don't tie your emotions to it, and just maintain that rhythm and keep that floor high. The I want to do more mindset. So a lot of the time we get into this rhythm. Sometimes this can even happen at the start of joining. People are struggling to even do the thing, and then they're wanting more and more and more. That's a mistake, because if you can't even maintain a simple program, adding more, however tempting, is not going to help you. On the flip side, you might have built a good routine, you might have built some habits, and you kind of want to add some new stuff. You're seeing it all, you're seeing it in the books, on social media, wherever. Oh, should I be doing running? Maybe I need to do more mobility. Oh, I really want to go hiking. I want to lift weights. I want to play sport. I want to go surfing. I want a foam roll. I need to do massage. Like all these things that are going to overcomplicate and add more time and more necessary energy in order to actually take action on. So with all of those things, that's fantastic. I want you to go out there and build a system that works for you and you love and gets you the results you want, however distant it is from like what we're doing together. But at the same time, I want to make sure that your core system, your floor, your foundation, your non-negotiables don't fall apart. So whenever you want to add something else in, I want you to ask yourself these three questions. So the first one is, do I have the space, or am I simply avoiding boredom? Can I rotate variety without losing my anchors? And does this addition support or complicate or maybe overcomplicate my system? When you ask yourself those, you're going to find out pretty quickly if this is actually something worth putting into your system and potentially jeopardizing it as well. The other thing is actually the perspective around it. So going, okay, cool. So this is my foundational system. I want to start going for runs. So add that in. But what I want you to do is emotionally separate the two. This is my core system, and this is my extra, my bonus. We talked about at the beginning. Everything else is a bonus. So if you don't get the run in, if you skip the run, if it doesn't happen, don't then self-sabotage the foundations. Keep them completely emotionally compartmentalized so that you don't fail by not hitting the run. That was never your system to begin with. That was never your foundation. So do those extra things, but compartmentalize them emotionally so that it doesn't impact your anchors and your core system. And that means that you can still keep your floor high and keep the momentum going. If you bring them into the equation, then it might then jeopardize those anchors because you'll be feeling that you've failed because you haven't hit the mark. But what you've actually done is just overcomplicated or overreached with your system. It was never actionable consistently to begin with. So you were just setting yourself up for failure to start with. So do the things, but make sure that they don't jeopardize your main system. Building for your current life. So this is what we talked about at the beginning about trying to copy and paste like your past routine that you did 20 years ago, right? It's never going to work because life's different now. So before, it might have been 22 years old, 90-minute gym sessions every day. You had all the time in the world on the evening. You had perfect recovery. You could get to sleep when you want. No one woke you up. And then now it might be 30-minute sessions, doing your workouts from home, lots of flexibility, lots of planning, because that's the only way that you can take action on it. If you try and go back to this when your life demands this, you're setting yourself up for failure. So this is really straightforward, and we do this for you when you join the program. But I really want you to understand this, not just for now, but for the future as well. As things change, maybe you want to add things, take things away, adapt it even more for yourself in the future. Remember, build for who you are now, not who you used to be. Build a system that is going to allow you to take action and is actually going to work for your current life, not the life that you used to live. And this kind of goes back to this one, the what I want to do more. Oh man, I used to do 90 minutes of yoga on top of my strength training. I used to go for 20K steps a day. I used to do this. I used to do that. I used to means nothing, right? It doesn't matter right now. What is important is like, what can you actually do now? As much as you want to do those things, you might be able to build them in eventually. Life's going to change again every single year, right? Life is always moving, the rhythm's always changing, but do it, build whatever you need right now to actually succeed and take action. So what do I want you to do from here? So firstly, I want to set up your weekly anchor plan. So what are those anchors for you? You can either use the ones that we use in our program, or you can add some extras in there, take some away, whatever works for you, but set some weekly anchors that will allow you to stay on track. Plan for busy weeks up front. If you know you've got a busy week coming, then figure out how you can like adapt and flex around that. If it comes up unexpectedly, again, just use those flex principles. Stick to your daily anchors, flex time, location, equipment, and focus on what's effective. Keep your base sessions short, focused, and effective. So if that for you might be the 3 times 30-minute workout, strength, and then a bit of mobility. You can do more if you want. Always add a step, add an extra set, add an extra exercise. That's fine, but your core system is short, focused, and effective. And then finally, let your training flex with life, not collapse underneath it. So when life happens, don't just let it collapse. Flex, adapt, and you can be consistent. And always remember this: consistency isn't intensity, it's stability. So final reflection, I want you to ask yourself, what's my current training floor? Like, what does the floor look like right now? What is your anchor plan for the next week? And which areas of your life are you still chasing perfection instead of consistency? Asking yourself why, and potentially like making some changes there. This system that I've taught you today is how you train for the rest of your life, how it's going to be sustainable, how it's going to be consistent. The mystery of the 50-year-old guy that's effortlessly in amazing shape and still goes out for a few drinks, still has a pizza, doesn't seem to train for that long. This is his secret. And this is what I do to stay where I need to be. And if you do this, you'll notice we haven't talked about any specifics really. This is what the training plan looks like. This is what you have to follow. This is mainly about your approach and your mindset and the way that you adapt. If you follow this, you will be in an amazing place. Combine this with the bulletproof nutrition and obviously the core principles that we teach in this program. And yeah, you'll be grand. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you have an amazing day. I've got another call now, so I'm going to have to jump straight off. If you have any questions on this one, please just drop them in the community or in a DM, and I will see you soon. Peace out. Bye-bye.